Welcome to Design Diary, the podcast where you get to look inside my board game design notebook as well as what's going on inside my head. We look at a new word each day from the sense of mechanics, tone, theme, or inspiration for a full game. Today's word is adapt. To make or become fit as for a new use, often by modification. So today's word is probably the most common of all the words that we've done so far. And it's one of those things that's almost in every game, so it's hard to come up with something unique because you're making modifications and tweaking things in almost every game that you play. But I had some thoughts on it. So to read from my notebook, my initial thoughts were that it's the before thought for yesterday's episode on Intrepid, that to become fearless and to overcome your fears, you need to adapt. So we sort of covered it a little bit, but here's what I have. You can adapt, you can modify a component, you can modify a character, you can modify a rule. And I wanted to go with modifying rules. I like the idea of that. The concept of fluid rules throughout a game is really neat. Sometimes they change in a legacy game throughout a campaign, over the course of a campaign. But there's nothing saying that a game can't start the same and end with different rules every single time. Now that has been done, and the one game that does that is Flux. Flux, you start with rules, you constantly change the rules. That's all you do is change the rules. But I wonder if you can do it in a more natural way. So based on the current game state, the rules will adapt. So things could shift due to a majority or a minority. A minority would be maybe a built-in catch-up mechanic of some sort, or based on how people have invested money or resources, even buying rule changes and things like that. But I think we're playing a game. You look at the game state, evaluate it, and then adjust the rules accordingly. So I don't know. I mean, there might be something that does that, but it's a neat approach to start designing, if anything. And when we talk about investing money and market, the market, I don't mean a market adapts where if there's, oranges are $2 instead of $1 because they're scarce. That's just some market, and that's part of a lot of games. But I mean the deeper rule changes. So instead of growing and then buying oranges, maybe now we buy before they grow, because of the game state changed for whatever reason. Changing timing, changing a frequency. How often we have a sell phase or a buy phase or grow based off the weather, things like that, where just the rules are changing. But I want to see, instead of it's just now, the weather, we pull out a card and the weather's bad, things change. I want to see, weather has been a factor for so many turns that now, weather is its own thing. It comes into play, and we're taking it more seriously, and it's now part of every single thing that we do. So, I lost my page. I had another thought for adapting. And it's along with the fear, the same thing. I kind of got stuck in this fear thing all week and kept coming back to it. It was, doing something bad until you're good at it. So let's say there's all kinds of traits or whatever, and whatever one of them you score the lowest in becomes a goal for your next round. And it changes as you get better at certain parts of the game. So an example of that might be, let's say it's a farming game and there's all kinds of different fruit out there, and whichever one I score the least in becomes a goal for the next round. And you could probably choose not to adapt. but then you don't achieve your goals in time, and you don't up your skills. So it's one of those things that goes back. This is just so tied with yesterday's Intrepid, but let's imagine a farming game. Oranges, I did the worst. The next round, oranges become, my top goal. And my goal would be to have maybe more than everyone else, or more than anything else that I collect, or more than the majority, or anything like that. If I do that, now I get a little thing on my board that says I am proficient in growing oranges. But whatever I did the least of this turn now becomes a goal for the next turn. And it should be a side goal, because if it's your main goal, that's all you do, and there's no choice, and you just adapt, and everybody sort of just evens out. But if it's a side goal in just becoming proficient, it could be neat. So yeah, I only wrote a page and a half on adapt, and I started to loop it in with yesterday's. I just got stuck on it this week. But any other thoughts on adapting? I love the idea of the rules. I love the idea of just something like playing Charterstone and just constantly putting new stickers and new rules in the book. But I want to see a game where that happens during the game, and very naturally, not changed by the player, but changed by a review of all the players' actions. So if there's anything that does that already, let me know, and if not, maybe something will at some point. So thanks for listening. It's the shortest episode yet, but we'll be back tomorrow and every other day. So thank you. See you now.